Welcome back to the deep dive. We've cracked open a huge stack of financial research today, and we're zeroing in on one simple idea.
A really powerful one.
Yeah, one that can fundamentally change how you feel about your money. Setting up your own cash savings reserve.
Mm.
Now, when we talk finance, everyone's mind immediately jumps to the high-stakes stuff, Stocks, real estate, massive emergency funds.
Right, the big scary topics.
Exactly. But the sources we analyze today focus on this critical middle ground, something they call épargne de trésorerie.
Which we're basically calling a cash savings reserve.
Right. And this isn't money for a broken water heater or for retirement. This money has a much more enjoyable purpose.
I like the sound of that.
It's for funding your pleasure expenses.
You
We're talking
are-
vacations, that big TV you've been eyeing, a serious shopping trip, and the philosophy driving this whole thing is it's fantastic.
What is it?
Buy with your money, not the bank's.
And that distinction is it's so key. This isn't just about stashing money away. It's a strategic move to sort of insulate your fund from crippling interest rates.
Insulate, that's a great word for it.
Yeah. The primary goal of this reserve is crystal clear. Have funds specifically for those fun, planned purchases so you can completely bypass consumer credit.
You just take it out of the equation.
Completely. It's all about enjoying the fruits of your labor, but, doing so intelligently. And just a quick note before we really get into the numbers.
Okay.
We're sharing the core mechanics from the research, including some specific benchmarks. But you have to remember, market conditions, asset rules, they're always changing.
So this is foundational knowledge.
Exactly. It's to inform your personal choices, not personalized investment advice.
Got it. Okay, let's unpack the core motivation here, because this is where the numbers really, like you said, jump off the page and grab your attention.
Mm-hmm.
Why go to all this trouble for, say, a weekend trip? Because the alternative relying on consumer credit is just financially punishing.
It really is. The sources are so stark about the cost of, financing your enjoyment.
Right. If you're using store credit cards or those small personal loans, you're looking at interest rates that are, they're just extreme.
Eye-watering, really. We're talking up to 20%, sometimes even 30% per year.
Let's make that tangible, because that number is so big it almost seems fake.
Okay, yeah. A concrete example always helps.
Yeah.
Let's say you want to take a fantastic vacation. A week in the mountains costs maybe 2,000 euros.
Sounds great.
If you don't have the cash and you put that $2,000 on a high-interest card at, say, 25% APR, that is an immediate, massive financial drain.
And it's not just the immediate charges, it's the drag.
What do you mean?
Well, if you only pay the minimum on that 2,000 euro purchase, you could spend the next year, maybe 2 years, paying it off. So over the course of that loan, you could easily pay an extra 400, maybe 500 euros just in interest.
So that vacation didn't cost 2,000. It cost 2,500.
Exactly. And you spent 18 months sending money to the bank for the privilege of relaxing for 1 week.
That is a huge unnecessary wealth drain. And that's the power of this whole cash saving strategy. When you use your own reserve, that 2,000 euro vacation still costs 2,000 euros. You are, in effect, giving yourself the loan.
And you're charging yourself 0% interest.
Precisely.
It just flips the whole script. You turn a massive liability, that debt, into a planned drawdown from your own asset. The sources summarize this perfectly.
How so?
The two goals are just plan your fund in advance and avoid consumer credit entirely. Simple.
Yeah, and that connects back to this idea of mindful consumption. This isn't about deprivation. It's not about waiting 5 years for a coffee maker.
Right.
It's about making sure that when you do decide to enjoy yourself, you don't pay a penalty for it. Every fun expense is interest-free. That is such a powerful form of financial self-discipline.
Okay, so understanding the cost of debt is the motivator. But how do we actually build this thing? What are the tools we need?
The nuts and bolts.
Yeah, the nuts and bolts. We've established the purpose is medium term, so we need the money in, less than 5 years?
Usually, yes. That time horizon dictates everything about the account you choose. We just can't afford any volatility.
No stock market gambles for your vacation fund.
Absolutely not. When safety and quick access liquidity are paramount, you have to prioritize those features over growth.
So what does the research point to?
It points us toward what they call a regulated savings account, a livret réglementé.
Okay, so for listeners who might not know that term, what is that, basically?
Think of it as a specialized government-backed savings account. It's designed specifically for security and ease of access. They're often tax-advantaged, and, crucially, they carry zero risk.
So just to be clear, we're not putting this money where a sudden market dip could wipe out our travel fund a month before takeout.
Exactly. Maximum stability. The sources highlight two key characteristics for these tools. They must offer zero risk, aucun, as they say, and they have to offer immediate liquidity, meaning you can pull the funds out instantly, no penalty, no waiting period. You see a great deal on plane tickets. That money needs to be ready to go the moment you hit buy.
That instant deployability, that's non-negotiable for this kind of spending. Okay, so the sources also have a strong recommendation for how to build the reserve, and it's the most powerful hack in personal finance.
Automation.
Automation. They strongly advise setting up an automatic transfer, a environment automatic. Why is that so crucial here?
Because pleasure spending can be, well,
Impulsive?
impulsive, exactly.
Right.
If you rely on manually moving money over at the end of the month, you're competing with every other little expense that pops up. Automation just moves that decision point entirely.
You pay your future self first, or your future fun, I guess.
You're paying your future pleasure first, yeah. You set aside, say, 100 or 200 euros every month, automatically, on payday. By the time you're planning your next big purchase, the money is just
Right.
there.
It's already separated.
Right. It makes the spending decision guilt-free and, most importantly, interest-free.
That makes perfect sense. It's a psychological barrier. Okay, so the big question, how much? The source suggests a reference benchmark of 5,000 euros.
And that's a fantastic starting point. But they add a really strong caveat. The amount must be adapted based on your specific needs and desires.
So how does someone listening figure out their own magic number if 5,000 doesn't feel right for their lifestyle?
It takes a little bit of forensic accounting, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Look back over the last 2 years. What were your biggest non-essential purchases? The annual vacation, a new laptop, that big furniture buy.
Okay.
Total those costs up and divide by 2. That gives you a pretty realistic annual budget for your pleasure spending.
And your reserve should cover that.
Your cash savings reserve should ideally cover 100% of that annual figure. If you spend $8,000 a year on big fun items, then $5,000 is clearly not enough. You have to tailor the target.
That's a great way to personalize it. All right, so these accounts are safe. They're liquid. They're the right vehicle. But here's where we hit the crucial trade-off.
The downside.
The downside. And it's something that makes a lot of growth-focused people nervous. The yield on these accounts, it's low.
Very low.
In fact, the sources state that when you factor in inflation, the real return is negative.
That's the critical reality of safety. You know, safety and liquidity, they just do not come with high returns. In fact, they almost guarantee you lose a little ground to inflation.
Which feels counterintuitive. Why should I lock my money away just to lose purchasing power?
It's an excellent question, and it gets right to the heart of the strategy. The real return isn't measured by the account's tiny interest rate.
It's measured by what you avoid.
It's measured by the interest rate you avoid. Yes, you might lose, say, 2% or 3% of purchasing power to inflation on that 5,000 euros. That's a loss of maybe 100, 150 euros. But if you had to finance that same 5,000 worth of purchases at 25% APR,
you would have paid, what, 1,250 euros in interest?
Exactly. The difference is massive. You are intentionally accepting a small known loss to inflation to guarantee massive protection against predatory debt.
The effective return is enormous.
It's huge. You're trading a small loss for a large, guaranteed gain in avoidance.
It's a total shift in perspective. Financial optimization isn't just about growing capital. It's about ruthlessly minimizing these big, costly expenses.
Precisely. And this is why that critical thinking is so vital, which brings us back to that powerful quote the sources highlight from Charlie Munger.
Oh, yeah, I love this one.
Take ideas from wherever they are, but use your own brain to assemble them. The strategy is a foundational idea, but you, the listener, you have to apply your own brain to your specific context. You need to know the current inflation rate, the APR on credit available to you. Only then can you quantify that huge saving.
That's a perfect summary of the balancing act. So let's bring this deep dive home with the key takeaways.
Let's do it.
The cash savings reserve is, let's call it, step 3 in financial security. It's designed for pleasure spending. The core strategy is proactive, automated saving to avoid that staggering 20 to 30% cost of consumer credit.
And you house this money in highly liquid, zero-risk, regulated accounts.
Right. You commit to consistency with automatic transfers, and you tailor that 5,000 euro benchmark to your own spending habits.
And of course, remember, while this discussion is, we hope, deeply informative, it is educational. We're here to inspire and inform.
Not to make financial decisions for you.
Exactly. You, the investor, are solely responsible for your choices and your results.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to mull over this week.
Okay?
We focus so intently on optimizing our investment returns, right? We're aiming for 7%, 8%, maybe 10% growth in the market.
The sexy stuff.
The sexy stuff. But if you successfully implement this cash saving strategy, you are achieving an effective return in money saved of 20% to 30% on your consumption spending.
So ask yourself this. If the goal is growing long-term wealth, and this cash reserve actually has a negative real yield, how does optimizing your consumption spending contribute just as much, or maybe even more reliably, to your long-term wealth?
Think about that. The guaranteed power of avoiding a massive loss versus the uncertain pursuit of a market gain.
It really changes how you define a financial win.
It absolutely does. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. If this discussion helped you think about how to structure your fund spending safely and smartly, please make sure to give us a like and subscribe to the channel.
That way you won't miss our next deep dive into a fresh stack of sources. Until next time, keep digging into the knowledge.
Bye for now.